Okay. I heard a ping. I can't monitor both at the same time, so I'm just gonna to drop out. Was that just the recording starting? Potentially, hey. Okay. Cool. All right. So I've uploaded most of them here. There might be a link or two that I still need to follow and just check out. And for this, I'm just going to hide my face to make sure that the streaming is working properly. Okay. All right. So, Nantes, are you still here? Did you manage to hold on? Where's your data at? Can't see off the bat. But then I guess I'll just skip yours for now, go straight to Salome's. Okay, so on that, sorry, I just jumped straight into it because I think reviewing the showreels will have biggest impact. And yeah, one thing that VLC just historically doesn't do so well is scrubbing through things. So I'm going to try and see what I can do to jump to the spaces that I'm referring to. In general, I think the content is good. The music's it's fine. I specifically wanted to put my speakers fairly loud. I think it's like at half volume, and VLC set to full volume. And you might notice now going through all of these that your levels of audio is perhaps either too high or too low, or whatever. So this music is very kind of it's very high pitched. So you may just want to drop it a little bit, and there's a definite shift in the tempo. So it picks up the beat, and then you have a lot of content that's very sort of detailed, kind of very, I almost want to say aggressive, because it's so colorful, it's so busy, and it's also the content itself feels like really dynamic. So I would use more of this content when the beat picks up and less of this content when the beat is still lower, just to fit with it, because you kind of like the beat, I think, picks up over here. There. So then you start with busy content, but then it sort of quickly tapers down into something that's not quite as busy, and a little bit more muted. So just also think of how the audio and the tempo of the audio informs the content. If you're upping the beat and you're sort of trying to establish this sort of hype around whatever you're showing, try and have that match what you're actually showing. So this is more muted, and I would say your Tiger assignment is also a lot more muted. Those I would probably show earlier, and then end with the busier. Like even this was good on that tempo. This Monique is quite crazy, so that's all good. And I think the amount of content that you have in there is fine. Yeah, all good. Some of the movements you could have probably edited a little bit. Like that, it feels like these two should match better. I don't know if it's just, it sort of does, but there's still some sort of popping and things that could probably be done a little bit. It's not a big deal, but what you could potentially do is bring in your letterboxing as those other two boxes come in, just so that the transition between the two clips are a little bit better. I like this work, so I would actually might even reserve it for a bit later. So it's just, I think for most part, it's the order of your content. Nothing with the content specifically, and then just try and match the movement of the elements on screen a bit better. I'm sure we're going to run into other things that are pertinent or valuable to you in other people's showreels. So, just sit tight if we've covered yours. I'm sure we'll get to some more overarching truths. Something that just occurred to me from the previous one as well, just the information that you're showing on your showreel, you probably want to end up with some form of contact details or identifier so that it doesn't just stand on its own. So like a title screen or something, maybe even contact details if this is going to be the only thing that you're putting out there. Consider having an email address or something, even a tag if you're on social media and you want people to go and look at your work over there, or if there's a business account or something that you can link to. Obviously, the links aren't dynamic, so it would need to be something that's quite memorable and easy to retype. And then specifically on content, but this is something that I've had an historical issue with, is templates that you're given to animate that make it into your showreel, because you might think that there's only one instance of it in your showreel, but someone that's received numerous showreels from students and are looking to employ people within that year will most likely find several examples of these specific elements in the various showreels. Try and steer clear of things that you're going to find in other people's showreels. So I'm not a fan of the templates. I understand why motion design uses templates, because you're more focused on the motion part of it for those instances than the actual design part of it. But for most part, I'd say leave it out of your showreels if you can, because like I said, it's everywhere. It's also, if you're not actually showing how this syncs up to the audio, there's very little that you've actually contributed to this particular piece of work. So try and replace it. Remember, you can include anything from any year in your showreel. It doesn't have to be limited to your third year. Also doesn't have to be limited to strictly open window work. It is your portfolio, your showreel, and your best work. So it can include everything. So please don't let it be template work. If you can please replace that clip, I think it'll be great. These I think may have also received some templates for, but the interpretation of it is a lot more varied. So I'm not too worried about that. Cool. Megan.
So sorry, I just want to ask for so like in 3D where we're doing work in teams,
Yeah.
would that work also then, even though it would be so what I'm thinking of is Jess made a character, Jacques made the environment, but the work that I wanted to show was the animation that I did because I didn't have a lot of my own
Modeling.
how I've animated stuff in it.
Okay. That's a little bit different because not like your version of that work is going to look different from the other two candidates. Like the one will be showing modeling, the other one will be showing animation, and one the environment, and the other one perhaps the character. So I don't think that's quite the same. And even so, that work is still original because um, it was created by students and lecturers alike in the year, and there's no previous year that's done the same. But if you look at the showreel content for motion design, then you're going to find this guy strewn throughout the years. Um, so it's more template based stuff. It's not to say that no one can have the same stuff in their portfolio. That's obviously going to be the case. Showreel, sorry. It's obviously going to be the case with group work. Um, it's more template work that I'm worried about.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, I think this. Oh, Taryn, you submitted your draft portfolio, not necessarily.
Yes, sorry. I was going to say to you, I did the portfolio and not the showreel. I'm still working on the showreel.
Okay, that's cool. I'm gonna like quickly scrub through.
Yeah,
and
it's fine. It's pretty old though. I have updated it, but I didn't put the updated version.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. So try and not include these guys. This looks good. This project looks fun. Obviously, try use more of the visual elements, not so much the texts. Triptych is cool. This also looks cool. Creation myth. So you've got some nice content to edit with. Yeah, just like this is a little bit of a different treatment. You've added a background and some shadows. I don't know if this is standard. So if you've done that, that's cool. But again, make sure that the animation is there. Sorry, I'm just gonna. Your audio is quite loud.
Sorry.
So just try and quickly mute that. Yeah, these guys also feature everywhere. It's nice when you've done some original interpretations, and to show them all together is probably also like a clear indicator of what it is that we're meant to be looking at. Like if it's expressions, like this illustrates it quite well. Yeah, okay. So I wouldn't include this dude in any case, because unless your walk cycle was like some of your best work, then just skip it altogether.
Okay.
Cool. I didn't mean to close that. Okay. All right. So already 2 minutes is quite long. I totally muted the audio, so let me just bring that back. If I can. Is there audio on here? What is happening? Should be, hey. pretty sure there was. Okay. I have a few questions. This this torn page transition thing, is that a, where did you find that? What is that? It sort of repeats every now and then. Looks like an After Effects thing, like this. Is that something that was built? I'm not sure if Karabo's here. Oh, so not this music? Yeah, you can show all your best work from all your subjects. It's your showreel. It's your personal achievement. ID Castlevania. I don't know what editor refers to. It's fine if your mic doesn't work. Just trying to. So I don't mind the transition so much. It was just, it started picking up as a sort of a template when it reoccurred. And then you're also, we're seeing work early on, and then we're seeing very similar work later on. I wouldn't repeat projects, so you could probably cut down on like half a minute of this, just because you're repeating both this, which is I wouldn't say your best work. It edits well in the beginning, and then it transitions well into the next, but then later when you return to it, it's really like, it's not exciting anymore. Sort of like we've seen it, and it's old hat. So if you can, don't repeat projects. Same with the Mickey Mouse. We had some Mickey Mouse, and then later on we have some more. And these, I assume, they're either your illustration work or they're your personal work that you've been doing. They're quite strong. They're maybe I don't know exactly where they're from or what they consist of and what the process entails, but they're impressive to look at. So as portfolio pieces, I would maybe even start off with some of these. Then this is also much better looking than the render that you did over here. I remember thinking that this is a very cool experiment in rendering, but it doesn't read, like if you don't know the context of it, it just actually looks like a bad render. It's, yeah, it looks pixelated. It doesn't really look like I think what you were aiming for. So this is good, and then this is also very good, and these are great. Besides the torn transition template thing, I don't think that's particularly bad, and I like the Mickey Mouse stuff that you did. I just wouldn't, I wouldn't stay on it for that long. And the timing of the edit also worked well for most part. It's just when those projects start repeating that you kind of lose the impact of the work. So I would say stop repeating projects, move that stuff that's really good to the beginning so that we start off with more of your original work and maybe less templates. Use these UI animation stuff for the middle. And then this is also good. These are fine. This is interesting. I like that. And this is very good. So yeah, take out things that aren't the best. Like this finish of this render, it doesn't compare to anything else in your portfolio, in your showreel. So just don't. Rather add the full composition or the full render. I think it will show your abilities as a 3D artist better than the experiment that you did the once off of. Cool, JC. So the music that you use in the beginning is super generic. It feels like I've seen a million of these with this soundtrack. So it gets interesting when you start showing some of the more complete development elements. And if we go on that idea of starting strong and ending strong, then I would say this creates a false impression of what we're actually going to look at. Like the showreel seems like it's going to be a motion design or a 3D showreel, and then we jump straight into development stuff. I think you need to be clear on what your aim is with your showreel, because it's a little bit all over the place. There are good like assets that were made, and there are very interesting visuals that you can utilize for your showreel. I just wouldn't, like, I don't know if this really, I know what it is, but I'm not sure it's very like, you don't want to, like, I also liked how refreshing this was after watching the rest of the sort of more development stuff. If you have any other content from any other year, I think maybe see if you can add more game design stuff in it if you have, because it feels like a game dev showreel, other than the motion design bit that you had in here. It's cool. I would use it, but I wouldn't kick off with it because it's not what your portfolio is, or not what your showreel is about. So I think just set the tone earlier on. Try and find some smaller game examples so that you can spend a little less time on the dev stuff. I think we get it very quickly. As soon as there's an input, like the running around is a bit dull, but as soon as there's a sort of an input saying like you died, or there's a switch, or there's some bullets flying, then that's cool. It's dynamic. But yeah, try to avoid sort of very dev-looking content for prolonged periods of time. Cut on the actions and only show us action sequences. Then this part, I mean, these assets are all cool, but you could actually show them all at the same time. They're not detailed enough for us to see them in close-up, and they're very awkwardly placed, and some of their pivots are even off kilter, so some things don't orbit around their center, which kind of reveals that they're not set up correctly. So I would try and condense or concentrate all of these assets all together. Large assets, medium assets, and small assets have no impact. They're not doing anything for your reel. So like, just remove the titles, show us everything at once. They all have this blue background, so you could just After Effects mask them, move them around, place them on a single spread, and you can probably still spend like a good 5 seconds on it. But I wouldn't show them in isolation. They're not exceptional modeling feats. It's in the bulk of the creation. You can say game assets as one title, if even title. I wouldn't even title. Just blue background, all the assets at once, all of them turning around, makes for a more impressive screen, and then cut 5 seconds later when we've seen all of the assets, or the collection of. The aim of the showreel is to impress, always. So the moment that you're losing, or the moment that you give the viewer a gap to criticize anything, it's when you start losing that ability to impress. So what sticks, like, even though we've seen a lot of good assets, the one that stuck in my mind is the one that didn't turn around its own axis, like that one that went out the frame. So that's unfortunately how we've survived as a species for this long, is finding fault with things instead of focusing on the positive. It's called natural selection. I heard a ping or two, so I'm just going to quickly check what that was about. Showreels, double major, do we make? So you can make multiple reels if you want to target multiple industries. So let's say you're a developer and a designer, or a developer and a motion designer, or something like that, then it would make sense to have a development focus reel and perhaps a motion design focus reel, because those are the industries that you're targeting, and the one won't work in the other one. But if they are very similar, or your work kind of, you want to stand out as a motion designer that also has 3D skills, or a game developer that also has I don't know, game design skills, and they're kind of like one and the same, then you can put them all in one reel. So they don't have to be separate reels necessarily, unless you're targeting different markets. So yeah, I mean, ideally, over the 3 years of your studies and the multiple modules and terms and majors that you've had, you should find a short list of about 20 shots, not even 20 projects, but just 20 good shots. Because if you spend 3 seconds, 4 seconds on each of those, you'll have more than enough content. I think 3 seconds times 20 is a minute. That's a minute reel. So get a short list. Think of 20 projects. If it's not 20 I don't mean 20 projects, 20 shots. So even if it's just 5 projects, but there's like 4 shots in each of those projects that that are dynamic, they're interesting to look at, they're not overburdened by information, not littered with text, then that's your answer. Those are the things that you want to include. So Shante, I think your audio is maybe a little soft. It is picking up though. Okay. So I think the same, I can't remember whose showreel it was, but the same applies here. It's where you've got good work, but the moment that you sort of start repeating it, it's kind of like oh, that was like, like you ran out. It gives the impression that you ran out of good work to show when you start showing the same thing over and over again. So I would actually just try and avoid that. There are bits where it worked for me. Your interpretation, this dude walking with the flowers was interesting. I know I don't particularly like the templates, but that was a good interpretation of the walk cycle, and I think this works well. This guy, But he really needs voiceover if you want to use him for anything, because that's what he was. I mean, he's meant to show performance animation, but we don't actually get performance animation. So don't use him unless you're going to use his audio with it, and unless it's really good. The lip sync and the expressions need to be spot on. You need to have gotten at least like a distinction for this work. And if you didn't, then maybe you shouldn't be including it. This is good. There's some really good stuff. Like, I liked all these expressions as well. They worked well as sort of intermissions in some of the edit. So every now and then seeing a little guy do an expression kind of worked well. These shots would be great if you can just replace them with the final renders in the end. So I don't mind them either. This work is really good. I just don't want to see it again. It's like, I've seen it. It was good. It was impressive. The second time I see it, I'm like, was that it? That feels like it was like the extent of the good work. So everything in its own right, like, this is great. I think there's probably better versions of this character, so maybe just don't repeat that so often either. These are good renders. You can have those in. So I think altogether, shuffle it, move the best bits to the start and the end. Don't try not to repeat. Rather make it a minute reel instead of a minute and a half, and just don't repeat any of the shots. All of the work that I see is good, and they work well in their own right, just not time and time again. The same work's not going to have the same impact if you show it over and over. So yeah, keep us on our toes and show us the good stuff, one at a time, and let's not go back there. Also, maybe just a little bit more of the work in progress stuff, like rig demos, that kind of stuff, more towards like right after we've looked at your best. We can take a little bit of a breather with some of the more work in progress, but then end on your best work, which is not necessarily, I don't know if this is this your studio or something? Is this your brand? If not, then don't end with that. This is good work. Triptych is also good to end with. This is also a nice element. Yeah, so there's plenty of good work. Let's try not to repeat it so often. I would just scratch that logo, I mean, or that title there, because we're not just looking at 3D animation in there, so it's just a little bit confusing. Already getting sure, yeah, I think just, that's fine. That's, just get rid of that. And then we linger a little bit too long on this, and her facial topology doesn't look like the best. So I feel like this is maybe just taking up a little bit too much of your reel. It's like 50% of it. And then the elements that you're adding that are newer, obviously just replace them with final ones, and don't just make sure that there aren't any glitches, because there's a little bit of a, like we're transitioning from this to, yeah, there's a little bit of glitching happening in here. You can't have any mistakes in your showreel. And I would, yeah, sort of intercut the motion design stuff, because it also feels like it's separated. So it's very 3D heavy, and then we see a little bit of a tail end of motion design. And this was also kind of interesting, but maybe just combine like shuffle the elements a little bit and edit to the beat. If you can find any other content assets that you've modeled, or rigs or anything like that, because I think I mean, most likely this is, I think, second year work. And then also what you're trying to show isn't entirely clear, because if you're sort of focusing on the design aspect of the character, then we might have wanted to see some drawings or something. Like if it's the modeling of it, then we would want to see the wireframe. If it's the texturing aspect, we'd want to see some atlases, but it doesn't look like there was texturing done. It's more just like shading. So just consider what you want us to take away from this visual. If we're employing people for a particular 3D task, what would this represent? Is it a modeling exercise? Is it rigging? Is it lighting, shading? Is it a combination of? But if modeling, most likely they'd want to see what the wireframe looks like. That's what people that are concerned with modeling are mainly interested in. And yeah, if you're showing animation bits, then just make sure the animations are playing properly and that there aren't glitches, and then just replace these with final renders. I think they'll look nice. I don't think we have this anymore, so maybe just try and lengthen some of these shots. I don't know if you're going to have a final render for that. But already, if you take some of these motion design elements and you disperse them, I think it would work. It's a little shy. Like I feel like you need more variety of work. So I don't know if you maybe just want to go and have a look, see what you've done over the years for different modules. Maybe you'll find one or two other elements that could also stand out. Like I would really like to see what this character's makeup is. Like how did it come to be? Was there a concept design behind it? What else happened in second year? If this is 50% of your portfolio, I mean showreel, yeah, surely there are other things. So just consider adding to the variety of work.
look at the way he moves. Remember, Drailing. Almost like sleepwalking. Look at the face. It's vacant, with a hint of sadness. Drunk, he's lost a lot.
If you can, if you still have the files to this, I would just take the titles off. Showreels are rarely require titles because it's not a portfolio exercise. It's not where you have to explicitly say what it is that we're looking at, because we're already looking at it. So it just makes the viewer feel like they're being treated like they're stupid. If you can, and also if you can, for these models, do show us the wireframe. In some instances, especially if you're looking for modeling work, if you want to be hired as a 3D modeler, people are going to need to see the models and not just the final render. So please show us some we can also tell that it's concept art, 3D animation. I would just like remove those titles altogether. Work in progress is a perfectly fine title, especially if it is still work in progress. But for the rest, just it all works. I kind of like those color bands going across as transitions. They don't really bother me. They kind of fit the color, but there's no title screen, and then don't. Especially if we want to include any of your work in our sort of student reels, which is what we also do. Like we do a motion design reel, game design reel, and a 3D animation reel at the end of the year for each year. And if your work has titles on it, then we can't use it because we don't put titles in our show reels at all. So please don't put titles on stuff, especially if it's not absolutely important. Work in progress, like I said, is an okay title to have because it creates context. But for this, we're already looking at it. It's 3D animation. We can see that. We don't need to be reminded. This one did drag on a little bit long.
Now, take another look at the way he moves. Remember, Drailing. Almost like sleepwalking. Look at the face. It's vacant, with a hint of sadness. Drunk, he's lost a lot.
But not bad. I think you have good content. Just clean up things like these little bits that detract from what we're actually trying to look at. Some of these things are nicely rendered. Maybe just end with a contact detail or something if you want. good, Zoe. I think that works. Works on the beat. It's quick, concise. I like it. Good work. It creates. See, this is like it's a really short piece. It's only 30 seconds, but it doesn't feel like it's short. It doesn't feel like it lingers because it's paced well. It works with the audio, the edits. Like I can see that you're already bringing in those bands over here, and then it pops in there, and yeah, the footage flows well on top of each other. I think it's a good reel. It's for a first reel. It's great. Oh, there's another one.
No, it's the same thing. I think it just doubles itself
Okay.
accidentally.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it works well. That's very cool, Raiden. It's got a vibe. Edits well to the beat. I like the work that's in it. Not that is really a factor, but I think you've got some strong content. I don't think that you necessarily ended with your best work. So maybe some of these don't fit your kind of mood that you've set out in the beginning, because this is very alternative, if I can call it that, and then we end up with something that's quite playful and not as strong. I think these are fine. It's mainly this last one that I feel a little bit like it doesn't feel like it's on the same level as the other work that you've done. If you can maybe see if you can integrate these better, or just leave them out entirely. The rest of your work's really strong. So the music, just like I think what's happening is the music is dictating the length of the reel, because it was super tight up until like around about a minute, and then we start seeing the same projects again, and the music's not, it's not really building up or anything, and it's like it's kind of dragging on. It's almost like there's a beat here at 50 seconds that could have ended it all. So what I would do is try and integrate some of the things that we haven't seen. Like I did like this bit, and that was good. This we've seen, I feel, before. I feel like that was in there somewhere. Yeah. And that was in the beginning. And then this was also somewhere in the middle. So what I would try and do is squash the duplicates. Try and if there's anything that's new, like I can't remember seeing this necessarily, try and integrate that. I think the pacing was really good up until about half a minute, and then it started getting... So this shot, I think, is longer than anything else, but it's the start of the stretch, so to speak. It feels like every shot after this is longer and not necessarily edited to the beat anymore. So I think just look at that last portion of your reel and see if you can't just like make it really tight, condense it, and try and fit everything into like this 50-second marker, without repeating things, or find another beat somewhere where we can stop it, but try not to extend it just for the sake of the audio. Not a fan of the end title, but everything else, well, you may want to put an actual title on there, like who does this belong to and how do they get a hold of you, instead of the end. So maybe just consider that. And then you can still have like 5 seconds or so of a tail of just your information on screen if you want to stop earlier. Okay, so I think check the timing, make sure that last section is as strong as the rest, or chop it off sooner and integrate the things that we haven't seen. Yeah, just check those flashing titles and stuff. Looks like layers are switched on and off for. I quite like this piece. I don't know. This is a Mixamo character, though, hey? I think. I'm not mistaken. That was cool. So this felt a little bit long, and then I was curious why we didn't see any of this build up. Only the final. I mean, it edits in well, but I think we could probably get to see a little bit of that instead of this dude. So I would, definitely opt for more original work. This guy's walk cycle is interesting enough to keep him in there. And so is he. Perhaps not clump them all together, but again, just if you're not going to let us listen to the voice over, then don't include this guy at all. I think if you, now this is just a little bit of insight information, or inside insight. I think if you get that car chase shot to work, it would be a nice addition to your reel. I think it's a good shot. And then obviously these, replace these with the final renders once they're ready. Then I think you probably have more than enough content to get rid of some of these templates. But it's a good length, and I think other than the one or two clips that aren't as strong, maybe just try and replace those with stronger work. Yeah, I definitely want to see this build. Andrew. Okay. Andrew, I think your reel's probably way too long. Like we spent a good half a minute just on the one game. There's good content, but I wouldn't stretch it out that long. Like try and spend, like what is this, 2 minutes. Try and spend a third of the time on it, then you'll end up with like a 40 second to a minute long reel. There's good material, it lingers too long, and also the order of it's not all there. Like you're showing us like kind of like full-on game stuff, where some of the other ones look a little bit more like experiments. So maybe just shuffle it around a little bit so that we start with something impressive, but not necessarily your full and final project. It's almost like showing your best work first, and then there's not really, I mean, it's not that these are bad. Obviously, this is some game jam stuff. It looks great. I'd encourage you to add more jam work. Of course, these assets aren't necessarily original either, but it creates a good impression. So maybe if you want to, rather start with something like this and then move on to, well, any of these are fine as long as they're short. So I just think that all of these clips just tend to, like, we get what's happening within the first 5 seconds of the content, and then we still somehow have to watch you drive over it. Like, that's it. Like, we got it. We get the gist. And if the fire bit's important, then maybe start closer to that part. But yeah, it carries on too long. So compress it, make it shorter, more concise. There's good work for a dev, or even for game content. It's very visual, real. I think it's good. Just don't let us get bored with the content that you're showing us. There's enough good stuff here that you can show us for a moment. Just give us a glimpse and then move on. What is this music? What is this music called?
I have no idea.
It's great. I like it. It's very good. It's very short, but I think it really leaves a good impression. The way that the things transition into each other also work really well. I never knew. Did you cuss? Oh, it just worked. These lines just kind of like looked like it. Yeah, it flowed very nicely into the next edit. So everything worked really well. The audio worked well. It's impactful. I didn't see any titles, so maybe just make sure that your name and your contact details are on that at the end, so we know who it belongs to.
Okay, cool.
But otherwise, it's very cool. I like it.
Thanks.
What did Jan say?
He hasn't seen it yet.
Okay. I hope he likes it. I like it.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, my mouse decided to stop functioning. So just a sec. So I'm not sure whose this is, but this title's on screen for a very short amount of time. It's like a second. So we sort of half read it. So you just get you get a glimpse of like sexual desire, and that's kind of like sticks. And I don't think that's at all what it's about, or it is, but it's not what it's supposed to be in your reel in any case. So I would just try and see if you can cut that out, the text, because there's enough falling happening, and there's, yeah, I think you cut back to this project again, and that's cool. It's just the title that's on screen for too short. It's kind of like, you don't quite get it. So try and cut that out. And then later on, when there's text on screen again, I think the same applies here, where you kind of want to just give it like a second to rest, like, because the text ends and it's like half a second. It just needs like that little bit more to just settle. So this one I would try and cut out, and this one I would just like try and leave in for like a second longer. So because we get it and we can read it, and then it ties in with this character. So and yeah, maybe add, it sort of ends a little bit abruptly. So add a title at the end, I think.
Sorry, I'm typing in chat. To be honest, I'm still very much in the process of exploring editing and all that. And I assumed this was just a draft that everybody came here with, like, completed stuff. Wow, y'all stuff is amazing. And yeah, I kind of broke up my triptych into stuff because the last one I wasn't that proud of. But also, I get what you mean with the titles now. And there is one template in there, the one with the CoffeeZilla.
Yeah, it's fine, because you added the text, you added the coffee. I think, at least from what I understand, what the template exists out of.
Also, when it comes to like the mask, the fox mask, is it too long for that animation, or?
Trying to remember where the fox mask is now. Also, show us the build of these things, or at least a portion of it.
I think there is a little bit of it, that in there, but I focused more on the edits.
Okay. No, the mask is fine. No, it works.
Probably have that frame there animate in longer.
And I liked how this walk went into that walk. So I don't mind that this was a template. It was just a little bit abrupt because you kind of want to see CoffeeZilla. You just want to read it properly, and it feels like you're rushed to the next. It's like literally a half a frame or half a second.
Okay.
Yeah, and then just, I think, of course, needs to be wrapped up, but and this is not yours, but
yeah. Of course, adding my own info and stuff like that. I didn't think about that. I was too focused on kind of like getting good transitions in there. Sorry.
Yeah. I like how the content matches. So the face edits into the face, and the walk edits into the walk. It flows well. So I think you've done something that works over there. And the timing didn't bother me, and I also didn't feel like this was necessarily that repetitive. It's okay to come back to a project. It's just not okay if that's a formula that you are applying. So if we're going to return to every single project that we've seen before, then that's problematic, and that's going to, like, it's like a pattern that we're automatically going to pick up as a viewer, and we're going to feel indifferent about it. So for this, it felt like it was still unique enough, what was happening to the character, like what was happening over here, and then later over here it felt like two different parts of the story. So I didn't mind that so much. And yeah, it's not formulaic, so we don't see it happening over and over again. So I think that also works fine. Where's the fish here again? Martin? Nom. Just a separate fish. The animation on those are very good. Character performance animations very good. Sorry, I think I canned the audio. Let me just bring it back. Okay, I'm not. Oh, okay. Simei. The showreel content towards the end is significantly stronger than what it is in the beginning. Don't know if that's necessarily your best, or maybe it just carries on for a bit too long, or maybe you just shouldn't kick off with it. But it, like somewhere here in the middle, it gets really, like the work gets like a additional level of refinement. So maybe that's just something that you picked up over like through the year, that you ended up spending a little bit more time on the details, or had more time to refine the projects. I would say your best work is towards the end. You want to show us a little bit of this good stuff in the beginning as well. And I don't mind this content, but I think like the first bit just sets a different tone. Like this also isn't particularly strong, but from here onwards, I feel like the work is really getting a lot better. More of this, although this was in the beginning of the year that you did this project. So I'm not sure what you have in your entire portfolio of work, what else you can show, but also don't be afraid to show snippets of work in progress, snippets of process is fine, especially if we can see kind of like what it entailed to be the final iteration of that work. So if there's any concept sketches, of course, the sketches themselves then also need to be good, or storyboards or anything that does lead up to a final design. Just having a glimpse of that in here could also be interesting. You know, it just depends on the quality of that pre-production work. And then, yeah, your title, of course, who made this work. It feels like there was a sort of trend to clean, like the design almost feels like it's getting cleaner and cleaner and more sort of condensed. But then we end up with this again. So I wonder if you're just, maybe this is not the best end frame. Maybe this can go a bit earlier. And then you end up with the design elements and then your title. I think that should do. Maybe find a part of this animation that has something more to look at than then the diagrams and the graphs. Not sure if this communicates that well. That's fine. This just takes a little bit too long, and this is kind of, it's fine, but maybe not the best work to start with. Can either start with something like that, or these work well together, the car motifs, the green and the green. This portion works well for me. So I think maybe just try and see what you can do to create more dynamic points of interest in here. I think that is everyone's.
Just need to check mine again. Well,
Okay.
mine.
Sorry, yeah, I did. I think I skipped yours. Zoe, thank you for submitting 3 fantastic reels.
My internet was down. I wasn't sure if it was going through.
Nantis, just off the bat, because I've looked at this before, remove the titles, please. Don't, like, I know we're looking at effects, but what I'm mostly looking at is the misalignment of this little graphic and thinking of how much space this is taking up. So it's not like, if you're showing, it's more pertinent for us to know what the entire reel is about. So you could start off by saying Nantis Pieterse game reel or something like that. Then we're set. We don't need further information. We don't need to read what we're already looking at, because it just needs to impress. Okay. And I don't think anyone really minds this sort of early development phase look in games in any case. I think we take it for what it is. I mean, games can be very simple. If you took screenshots from Thomas, what is it? Thomas is alone, was alone, then it's just a couple of blocks and squares on screen. So that's fine. Just show us what you've been at, what you've been working on, and don't need to explain it. In instances where you're going to show us like a buildup of elements, like if you've worked on the lasers first, and then the lasers and the particles, and then the lasers and the particles hitting the object, try and just do that chronologically so that we can see the development. We can pick up on the development trajectory within the content itself. So I would move earlier development phases first to more complete integration of those elements. I think that's a logical flow of it. Oh yeah, and then this part, I think this carries on for the rest of your reel, but this part says game sound, footsteps, but then we have audio up until here, and then we start hearing the footsteps, and then the footage goes, and we still hear the footsteps. So rather than thanking us for watching, make it a pleasure to watch. take your more dev stuff, early dev stuff, put that in the beginning. And also, I'm pretty sure, I'm just going out on the limb here, that you have a lot more content to show, because this all feels like it's from a single project. Just go through your entire library of projects, game jams, any interesting elements that you've developed over time. Showcase that. We want to see a variety of work, and I feel like we're seeing a lot of the same stuff, and I think you definitely have more to show than what you've presented here today. So if you're going to do audio, make sure that the audio is working. Don't unnecessarily stretch it out. I think you could probably aim for like a minute reel rather, but get more content and make it a little bit more dynamic, a little faster. Like there's also bits here in the next sequence where there's nothing really happening, like this part, for a long time. I think for at least about 4 or 5 seconds, we don't actually see anything happening until he reaches that point. So maybe just tighten the edit as well. Make sure that we jump in right on the action, and then cut out as soon as it becomes boring. This is a good couple of seconds before he even moves towards the other characters. Okay, so more stuff. Show us what you've done over the years, Nantes. Doesn't have to be just this year's project. I'm sure you have something. Yeah, there's some really good ones, and then there's some that I think just need to be bulked up with a larger variety of content. For most parts, the edits are good. Remember, remove all obvious titles. We don't want to make the viewers feel like they're idiots for having to read things that they're already seeing. But do add the pertinent information, like who are you, or where can we get a hold of you, so that we don't just have this anonymous work floating in cyberspace. Okay, I'm gonna stop presenting. Sorry that we didn't take a break, but I think we're gonna dismiss earlier. We can pretty much go about our business. Good luck. If you have any questions regarding the portfolios that aren't answered in the portfolio Canvas courses themselves, feel free to reach out to me. Yeah, any other questions, guys? Thank you. Yes, Jessica. Yes? No, Jessica became Justin. Justin?
Hello, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I did want to ask, because I'm still busy with my show reel, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't submit it for today, because I didn't want to show an really unfinished product. Are we still able, let's say, if we want to send the video to you for feedback, even if it's small feedback, is that allowed?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That's all I wanted to ask to make sure that was accepted.
All right. Jessica, mic broken. Hypertexture. Yeah, just stick around. I think not everyone will be here for that. Cool. Stay warm. Got your mic to work.
I think so. Maybe.
Yeah. I was looking at the textures earlier on
Oh gosh, I did a 32 sample render. Okay, I realized afterwards that my focus thing was in the wrong place. But when it's very close, then the texture sort of looks okay. But the minute you zoom out, it's got this like weird staticky thing going on. I don't know if it's because of the subsurface scattering, which I don't understand why it's got subsurface
so
scattering.
it's you mean it's making a noise pattern or something?
Yeah.
So it's something that happens in film. It's called a Moyer pattern, I think. And what it is that the contrast is too high for the pixel density. So the frame doesn't have enough pixel information to display the texture appropriately. So what we use normally to solve that is something called MIP maps. MIP maps adjust the resolution dynamically depending on how close it is to the camera. But it mostly happens with things like high contrast patterns. So if you ever go and have a television interview, they'll tell you not to wear like a checkered shirt or something like that, because that's going to like create a noise. But it also happens with normal maps or bump maps that have high values, so high level of bump that's sort of concentrated into a single pixel now, and it doesn't know how to display that, so it'll alternate. It'll display a little bit of it at a time. The way to fix that, I think, would be, well, the easiest would be to reduce the amount of bump on there. Or if, like, I don't know if Blender has a MIP map feature. But you could also animate the strength of the normal map for that shot. I mean, it shouldn't be a constant thing. Or you could just tone it down, just like it make the strength 0.1 instead of 1 or something like that. It should already work.
Okay, I'll try that. Yeah, because it's whenever it's zoomed out, then it looks funny. I thought it was the volume, but then I rendered without the volume, and that's.
I think it's the texture itself.
Yeah, I think so too.
So
and
what's the strength of that normal map?
I can check for you quickly. Wait, that's the old file. Let me open the actual rig file. Okay. I think it's this one. Shading. I just gotta find the thing. Here it is. So the normal math strength is at about 1.
Probably make that 0.5 or 0.1 or something.
Okay, and then I see he's also gone and put a displacement image, connected that to a displacement node, and then put that into the output displacement little.
That will, I mean, it's great if you want to get into like the minute microscopic detail of the texture, like if you're zoomed in and you're hyper focused on what the texture is doing. But practically, when you're rendering that from a distance, it's not viable. You can't keep that. You need to put some sort of a dampen on it, so that the further the camera is away, the lower the resolution. So
yeah, see, it's quite hectic, the displacement.
Yeah, in game, if you switch on MIP maps, it automatically does that. So if like every time it calculates the space that it's taking up on screen and then regenerates a proxy texture for that distance from camera.
Yeah, it's a bit lower res if it's further. Okay.
So even like if the textures on them are also really big and high res.
They're 4K textures.
Yeah, no, all of that's it's wrecking your memory.
Yeah.
It's taking forever to load those into memory and then render them. So reduce them, especially for like a repeating texture. If it's a tile, then it should be like 512 or something like that. And if it's a full-on texture for the whole character, I guess it can be 4K, but I would make a copy of it and make it like 2K or 1.
Yeah. And then in terms of the color, I know you said like a more pinky color, because if you go into like the two pictures that are next to each other there, if you actually go inserts, there's the blue and the pink next to each other. It's just, I don't know if that,
With that lighting, I can't really tell.
yeah, it's supposed to be like a pinkish color. And the other one I actually made a light blue, but it's really not coming out those colors. So that's why I was thinking, I don't know if in, when I comp it, if I do a bit of color correcting on the diffuse layers. And then I would render out just the characters, or the character itself as like a different render layer just with that, so that it's separated from the environments. Then I just change the color there and do a color correction on that. But I don't know if that's going to mess things up, because then technically it's going to influence the lighting of the room in comparison to the character, and then the local color is technically.
No, you can grade the character in a separate layer. I think it's
Okay.
fine. It happens all the time. You could also just add a little bit of white light, like from the front, that doesn't affect specular, but just kind of like as if the light coming from the window is hitting like a
Wall or something.
wall or anything that's bouncing the light back onto it. So earlier today, when we had 3D, I posted some of the, I think it was, the animation was called Over the Moon. And most of that film happens during nighttime, but none of the shots, if you take any of the frames from that film, look like it's underlit or at night. Like some of it looks like daytime lighting, and then just the background is like blue. Or so feel free to add more lights.
Okay.
So the same thing that I told the class earlier today is that you could always go and grade back the darkness, but if you don't have the color information to begin with, there's nothing to grade. It's just going to break apart. So try and get a wide spectrum of lighting, of value in your render, and then from there on you can go and, like, if you've got a character pass, then it's very easy to go and darken it a little bit and make it more like it fits with the rest of it. So I would just add a small, maybe even a I wouldn't use a spotlight, because you kind of don't want it to affect, you don't want a cone on a bed behind him, but maybe like a point light with a fall off so that it just kind of reaches the character, and maybe a little bit of the bed, and then maybe even like remove shadows from it. Don't let it affect the specular, just a very basic kind of diffuse fill to lift the colors of the character. Or alternatively, you could add like a 0.1 emission to it or something like that with that color or texture. It will be a little bit self-illuminate, which is a problem when it comes to the shadows in the crevices, but the ambient occlusion brings that back. And again, you can go and grade the character a bit.
Okay. And do you think more the pink or the blue? Because I don't know, that pink color just comes out so terribly.
To be honest, I can't see the difference. They're too washed out. It's not obvious for me which ones. I mean, the one on the left looks pink, and then the one on the right is blue, I guess.
And also his tummy, should I just forego that like tartan texture, or just do like the clear clear color, because it's actually like a peach color that the one picture has on his tummy and his nose, but it's coming out gray.
Yeah, I think the lighting is because of the very
Yeah.
warm orange light. It is messing with your colors a bit. It's not okay. Well, so traditionally, if you look at old Disney films, characters were simplified so that they read easier with less textures. They're flat shaded, and backgrounds were hand painted, so they're detailed. We tend to see movement and performance easier on flatter surfaces. So for that, I wouldn't do texture. I wouldn't do the checkered.
Okay.
As a still render and as a turnaround of the character, I feel like it looks more textured once it has it. So if you're doing any portfolio kind of presentation stuff,
Okay.
you want to keep the texture for presentation purposes, by all means do that. You can showcase your textures. But for the film, I think it doesn't need it.
Okay.
The bed behind it already has checkered.
Yeah, I thought it might be a bit like too busy with it on.
It does get a bit busy.
Okay. And then in terms of like the glow on the glow in the dark ruler and the little the other glow in the dark elements, is that okay? Because I added a glare node at the very end. But I see now with that tutorial I sent you, they've also got a thing where you can add a bit of a glow node that basically does the same kind of thing.
You normally add glow as a post effect on top of the emission layer, because it picks up the values of the layer. The only thing with the sword, it becomes a very flat object.
Yeah, you don't see the like crevices in that. That's what I was worrying about. The star, it looks fine.
Although the ambient occlusion, once again, will probably bring that back a bit.
Okay.
It's almost like you want...
Because there was like a different version, which it was more like a neon plastic as opposed to like full glow in the dark. I don't know if I have a picture.
Like that little glow stick behind him, you can still see the sort of...
Yeah, so it's basically that texture that's on the actual like rod, not on the edges. So it's more of like a, I don't know, they used like more of a metallic, they bumped the metallic parameter up quite a bit, and then it made it kind of look like a plastic metallic neon colored thing. So I don't know if I'm going to try to put that back on.
I think you want sort of a combination of the two. Let me just see what I've, because at some point I did. Let's see if this is. Yeah, so that's what happens when it becomes, when it's just emissive. You kind of want to keep a little bit of that.
Like the form of it.
Of the shape. So it's a round shape, but it's rendering flat because of the emission surface. So hello. It's here somewhere. View frame selected, frame all. Thank you. Okay, so what you could do is you could use a Fresnel. So if you go, So Fresnel typically does sort of the outer extremities. So now you can see that it's just glowing around the edge. You can obviously, you don't have to use the Fresnel as is. You could use that as a factor for blending. I don't know, what was this? Oh, that was just hue saturation. Sorry, let me just grab whatever. So that was an attribute, which is also something that you could probably do. Is if you had a shape, so besides the Fresnel, which you can go and tweak, you can see how much you can include of the image. So that's kind of a cool way of retaining some of the interior, but still have a glow. Let me just say search. So if you use the Fresnel as the splitting factor, and then you use two different emission colors. So the one being the sort of more glow in the dark kind of thing. Should probably put that quite low. And that being the more luminous part of it. And you can also adjust this gradient, I think, by
Do a color.
setting doing a ramp on that. Yeah, that sort of helps you retain a little bit of the shape of the object. Wait, what was the other thing that I was going to show? Oh, yes, the attributes. So if you were just to use something like don't know if I can do it on this object because that's geometry nodes. I might not be able to add attributes to it, or it has a bunch, so maybe not right now. I'm gonna do it on this thing. So let's just say hello. No, still not. No, it's just want to. What on earth am I doing? I think I made two of them accidentally. Just so that we have some shape to consider. Then you can go into vertex paint, of course, and then if you go into dirty vertex and you find a nice medley of this, like a nice, like you can see where the density of the object is. It's just kind of making the shape of the object more obvious. Something like that. Let's just assume that we're happy with that. What did I just add? So what is this attribute even called? I'm not sure. I think it's this one. Yeah, I think it's that just one called attribute. No, that's vertex color. I can't edit that. But okay. So this then, using that, you know how to use attributes in, it's what we did for the smoke guy as well. So you just go search attribute, and then you just have to match whatever that is. So I think that one was called position. You can check, and we can just plug that into color, see what that renders like. Okay, so it's not position. I think it's actually just that attribute one. Yeah, okay. So then you can also use this in combination with your emission, because then it'll kind of retain some of the shape of that emit on the extremities. So I think it's a combination of that and your Fresnel.
Okay.
Probably going to give you the best results. So Fresnel again. And now we want to mix these two together. Sort of, not really, but sort of. Kind of do that glow in the dark.
Yeah. And then you just add color to it, I think it'll. Oh, what does the sheen do?
Sheen makes it look more like cloth.
Okay, so you want that high for the texture.
It's like a velvety thing that happens on top, but you won't pick it up if you already have too much specular. Then sheen doesn't really do much because the specular is overriding it. Because cloth is normally quite low in specular, but it has a rim light, like an edge. So it's normally quite matte with a little bit of sheen, like a velvetiness to it. So that's what that helps with. I don't think glow-in-the-dark objects are particularly metallic, so you can do that. And they probably do have a little bit of subsurface as well. I'm not picking up any. Oh, there it is. Yeah, there's a little bit of subsurface coming through. No, is there? Wait, what am I? Ugh. Changing like the background or something. Let me try that again. It sort of starts getting that waxy, glow-in-the-dark kind of vibe. This you probably want to multiply with a yellow or something as well.
Okay.
So I think it's just a shader that you can probably tweak a bit to make it look more like that.
Okay, cool. That'll definitely help.
Otherwise, how's it going?
Yeah, it's doing. I lost my shit on the group chats because I just couldn't. Quinton was complaining that files weren't in places they should be. And I'm like, how do you expect to get a job when you cannot even find a file on your own computer and link it in to your animation? So, yeah. But I think hopefully he got a wake-up call and he will now pull his weight.
Shame.
And I don't know what you call it, Karab was doing, because he's literally spent the whole term just trying to do those textures.
Yeah.
So they,
Jog's still MIA.
yeah, but I I honestly don't know what's going on there. He said he's doing his animation stuff, and I sent him a whole voice note explaining what we did on the 2 days that we were on campus and that we need to render and stuff. And he doesn't really reply, but he replied on the group chat when things got heated, ironically. So
Okay.
I just hope he submits something. Because luckily, like, we've got all the files that we needed from him. There were just a few textures that I said, listen, please can you go fix, because they're doing strange things. And obviously he set up the nodes, so yeah, I don't know, certain nodes are just screaming at us. So I was like, well, you set it up, fix it, please. But yeah, we'll see what he submits, if he does anything. But I think he stopped the full-time job or whatever, so
He's fallen behind on some assignments, so we'll
yeah, big time.
see what the portfolio does. Hey,
Yeah, we shall see. But it blows my mind because he got like close to distinctions in the first 2 terms, so it's not like he's not capable. I think it's just time management. But yeah, I don't know what Karaba's doing, because even on the giraffe still doesn't have spots. So I'm like, the whole point of it was, yeah, so that it could have spots.
I think my dog just told me to go feed it, so gotta get going. All right.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll see you on Thursday again. See if there's any news or updates.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna come to campus. I might just stay at home because my GPU is the same as the on-campus computers, so I don't think it's gonna make much of a difference.
It's not necessary, but we did say to today's team that we're Chris and I are probably going to be on campus on Friday and Monday and throughout next week, just managing renders, making sure everything's in the right place.
Okay. I just had one last question. So then, just for like the final this term's marks, basically, must we just then use the same Hippo, whatever Karaba's done, for our final renders and that, and then just in our portfolio, if we want to do like a nicer texture that like just works a bit better and just is at the same like detail level?
If you want to show off your texturing skills, then by all means you can go and retexture everything and include it in your portfolio. But for the sake of the film and consistency, I would, whatever the groups agreed on, go with that. We can't have rogue textures on
Yeah,
shot.
no, that makes sense.
Very strange.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. It's gonna look strange, but okay. Thank you very much for your time and help.
All right, Jessica, have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.